Welcome to Treasure of. Today, we're traveling through time to witness the battles that changed the world forever. These aren't just tales of victory and defeat, they're the moments that shaped civilizations, redrew borders, and forged the world we know. Imagine if Alexander had failed, or if the tide of World War II hadn't turned. History would be unrecognizable. We'll explore the genius of commanders, the courage of soldiers, and the immense stakes behind every clash. This is history at its most dramatic and consequential. If you love these pivotal stories, hit like, share, and subscribe for more. Now let's march on to our first battlefield. In 331 BC, on the vast, windswept plains of Gaugamela, two of history's greatest leaders prepared for a confrontation that would shape the fate of the ancient world. On one side stood Darius III, the mighty king of Persia, ruler of a sprawling empire. Opposing him was Alexander the Great, the young Macedonian king whose ambition and tactical genius were already legendary. Darius commanded a vast, diverse army. Some ancient sources claim up to 250,000 soldiers drawn from every corner of his empire. In contrast, Alexander led a much smaller but highly disciplined force of fewer than 50,000, united by loyalty and rigorous training. Outnumbered 5-1, Alexander knew brute force would not win the day. Instead, he relied on revolutionary tactics, lightning-fast decision-making, and his own battlefield brilliance. Darius, expecting a straightforward clash, was caught off guard when Alexander advanced at an oblique angle, skillfully maneuvering his troops and drawing the Persian cavalry away from their strongest positions. This bold maneuver created a critical gap in the Persian line, precisely the opening Alexander had been waiting for, a testament to his ability to read the battlefield in real time. Seizing the moment, Alexander personally led his elite companion cavalry in a thunderous charge straight into the breach, aiming directly for Darius himself, risking everything on a single decisive strike. The sight of Alexander bearing down upon him threw the Persian king into panic. Darius fled the field in his chariot, abandoning his men and sending shockwaves of fear through his ranks. In moments, the mighty Persian army dissolved into chaos and disarray, their confidence shattered, their formations broken. Alexander's victory at Gaugamela shattered the myth of Persian invincibility, bringing an end to the centuries-old Achaemenid Empire and opening the gates of the East to Greek influence. He became master of Asia, ushering in the Hellenistic Age, a remarkable era where Greek and Eastern cultures blended, sparking innovations in art, science, and philosophy that would echo for centuries. One battle, one extraordinary leader, and the course of history was forever altered. The ground at Gaugamela was not just a battlefield, it became the birthplace of a new era, where the destinies of continents shifted. To this day, Alexander's tactics are studied in military academies around the world, a lasting testament to the power of strategy, innovation, and bold leadership over sheer numbers. The fate of empires and the course of civilizations can hinge on a single audacious move, one moment of genius in the heat of battle. That is the enduring legacy of Gaugamela, a testament to vision, courage, and the power to change the world. Now, let's journey onward to another turning point in history. 1066, a year that transformed England and set the stage for centuries of change. After King Edward's death, the English throne was left without a clear heir. Harold Godwinson, a powerful noble, seized the crown, but his claim was immediately challenged. Both Norway and Normandy saw opportunity, and their leaders prepared to invade. Harold's army raced north, defeating the fearsome Vikings at Stamford Bridge in a brutal battle. But there was no time to rest. News soon arrived that William of Normandy had landed in the south, bringing a fresh and determined army. Exhausted but resolute, the English soldiers formed a legendary shield wall atop a ridge at Hastings, bracing themselves for another fight that would decide the fate of their kingdom. William's Normans attacked relentlessly, wave after wave crashing against the English line. For hours, the shield wall held strong, until the Normans used cunning tactics, pretending to flee and luring the English into a deadly trap. Eager English soldiers, believing victory was at hand, broke formation to pursue the retreating Normans, but the Norman cavalry wheeled around, cutting them down with ruthless efficiency. The shield wall weakened, and in the chaos of the final assault, Harold was killed. An arrow to the eye, legend says. With their leader fallen, the English resistance crumbled and the battlefield was lost. William the Conqueror emerged victorious, ending the Anglo-Saxon era and beginning a new chapter in English history. Under Norman rule, England's language, laws, and culture were forever changed. Castles rose across the land, and new customs took root. The Battle of Hastings was more than just a conquest. It marked the birth of a new nation, blending old traditions with new influences. The echoes of that fateful day still shape Britain today, visible in its language, its laws, and its very identity. One battle, one moment in time, and the course of a country was forever altered. Its legacy still felt nearly 1,000 years later. Now let's witness the fall of an emperor, and see how history's tides can turn in a single day. June 18, 1815. Waterloo. Napoleon's last gamble. Facing Wellington's Allied army and Blucher's Prussians, Napoleon hoped to defeat them before they could unite. Rain delayed the battle, giving the Prussians time to arrive, a fatal setback. Wellington's troops held strong defensive positions, with key farmhouses acting as fortresses. French assaults raged all day, but the Allied line bent, never broke. As Prussian reinforcements appeared, Napoleon launched his elite Imperial Guard in a final attack. The Guard faltered and retreated, the myth of French invincibility shattered. The French army broke and fled. Napoleon's reign ended on that muddy field, closing an era of European history. Waterloo wasn't just a defeat, it was the end of an age. The world map would never be the same. From the ashes of empires, new powers would rise, now to the ruins of Stalingrad. Winter, 1942, Stalingrad. The city lay frozen under a blanket of snow, its buildings shattered, its streets echoing with the sounds of distant gunfire and the cries of the wounded. Once a thriving industrial hub, Stalingrad had become a symbol of destruction and defiance. Hitler's Sixth Army, once considered unstoppable and the pride of the Wehrmacht, was now trapped in a city of rubble and death, their advance halted by fierce Soviet resistance. The battle was brutal, street by street, building by building, with snipers lurking in every shadow and close-quarters combat turning every ruined room into a deadly trap. The city became a labyrinth of violence, where survival was measured in meters gained or lost. The Germans controlled most of the city, but the Soviets clung desperately to the Volga's edge, refusing to surrender even a single block. Their determination was unbreakable, and every day brought new sacrifices. Then, in November, the Soviets struck with a bold plan, Operation Uranus. It was a massive counteroffensive, meticulously planned and executed. Soviet forces smashed through the weakly held Axis flanks, encircling the entire Sixth Army in a tightening ring of steel and fire. The hunters had become the hunted. Hitler refused to let them break out, promising an air supply that never truly materialized. The Luftwaffe could not deliver enough food, ammunition, or hope. Inside the cauldron, German soldiers starved and froze, their strength fading with each passing day. Disease and despair spread as quickly as the bitter cold. After months of unimaginable suffering, Field Marshal Paulus, surrounded and out of options, surrendered to the Soviets. The once mighty Sixth Army was no more. Over 250,000 men were lost, killed, wounded, or captured. The devastation was total, the cost beyond measure. Stalingrad was Nazi Germany's first great defeat, a turning point on the Eastern Front that shattered German morale and changed the course of the war. The myth of German invincibility was shattered forever, replaced by the grim reality of defeat and retreat. From the ashes of Stalingrad, the Red Army would gather strength and momentum, marching relentlessly westward, all the way to Berlin. The fate of Europe shifted in the ruins of one city, where courage and sacrifice rewrote history. Now, let's cross the Atlantic to another turning point, where the outcome of the entire war would once again hang in the balance. Gettysburg, July 1863. The bloodiest battle of the American Civil War. Confederate General Lee invaded the North, hoping for a decisive victory. Union forces held the high ground, forming a strong defensive line. For 3 days the armies clashed, Devil's Den, Little Round Top, and finally Pickett's Charge. Lee ordered 12,500 men across open ground into a storm of Union fire. The charge was heroic, but doomed. Few reached the Union line. Lee's gamble failed. He retreated, never to invade the North again. Gettysburg marked the Confederacy's high water mark, and the beginning of its decline. The Union's victory, coupled with the fall of Vicksburg, turned the tide of the war. The fate of a nation was decided on those Pennsylvania fields. Now, to the Pacific, where 6 minutes changed everything. June 1942. Midway. Japan's navy seemed unstoppable, aiming to crush the U.S. Pacific Fleet, but American codebreakers uncovered the Japanese plan. Admiral Nimitz set a trap, positioning 3 carriers near Midway. As Japanese planes attacked the island, their carriers were left vulnerable. American torpedo bombers attacked first. Almost all were shot down, but they drew Japanese fighters low. At that moment, U.S. dive bombers struck from above, catching the Japanese carriers defenseless. In 6 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers were ablaze. A 4th would follow. The heart of Japan's carrier force was destroyed. Midway was a stunning American victory, the turning point in the Pacific War. From defense to offense, the Allies seized the initiative. The balance of power shifted in a single miraculous moment. Now, let's travel back to medieval Europe. 732 AD, near Tours, France. The Umayyad Caliphate surged into Europe, threatening to conquer the Christian West. Charles Martel, leader of the Franks, gathered a disciplined infantry force to block their advance. The Umayyad cavalry, famed for speed and ferocity, expected an easy victory. Charles chose high, wooded ground and formed a dense square of heavy infantry. Wave after wave of cavalry crashed against the Frankish wall, but it held firm. During the chaos, a rumor of a Frankish raid on the Umayyad camp spread. Panic ensued. Their commander was killed, and the Umayyad army broke and fled. Charles Martel's victory halted Muslim expansion into Western Europe. The Battle of Tours preserved Christian rule and set the stage for the Carolingian dynasty. One stand, and the future of Europe was secured. Now let's reflect on the echoes of these battles. These battles weren't just clashes, they were turning points that shaped our world. From Gaugamela to Midway, each conflict redrew borders, toppled empires, and forged new destinies. The courage, strategy, and sacrifice on these fields still echo through history. Understanding these moments reveals how our present is tied to the past. Thanks for joining this journey through history's epic turning points. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world. Until next time, stay curious.